The summer sun beat down on Maple Street as Hannah carefully set up her lemonade stand for the 10th day in a row. She was only 8 years old, but her small hands worked with determination as she arranged everything just right. The wooden stand, which her father had built from old boxes and boards, wasn't fancy, but Hannah had decorated it with bright yellow paint and pictures of smiling lemons that she had drawn herself. Her mother, Sunmai, watched from their small house's front porch, trying to hide the worry in her eyes behind a gentle smile. The medical bills for Hannah's older brother, Jin-ho, sat heavy in her pocket like stones. Even with their insurance, the costs of his cancer treatment seemed to grow bigger every day, like a balloon that wouldn't stop inflating. Hannah remembered the night she had decided to start her lemonade stand. She had gotten up to get a glass of water and heard her parents talking in low voices in the kitchen. Her father's voice had been rough with tears as he spoke about maybe selling their car. Her mother had been quietly suggesting they could remortgage the house. Hannah didn't understand all the big words they used, but she understood that they needed money to help Jin-ho get better. That night, as she lay in bed hugging her favorite stuffed penguin, Hannah made a promise to herself. She would help, even if she was just a little girl. The next morning, she had asked her father to help her build the stand. Now, Hannah carefully poured fresh lemonade into the big glass dispenser. Her mother had taught her the recipe: fresh lemons, water, and just the right amount of sugar. She had gotten very good at making it over the past 10 days. Her regular customers said it was the best lemonade they had ever tasted. "Remember to come inside if you get too hot," Sunmay called from the porch. "And don't forget your hat." Hannah nodded and put on the white sun hat that her brother had given her for her last birthday. Jin-ho had been stronger then, before the cancer made him so tired all the time. He used to play basketball in their driveway every afternoon. Now he spent most of his time in bed, but he still smiled whenever Hannah brought him the day's earnings from her lemonade sales. The morning started slowly, as it usually did. Mr. Park from next door bought the first cup of the day. He always paid with a $5 bill and told Hannah to keep the change. Today, he also brought her a small paper umbrella to help shield her from the sun. "Business sense and a good heart," he said with a kind smile. "You're going to go far, Hannah." Around noon, the local mail carrier, Mrs. Lee, stopped by. She bought 2 cups and spent a few minutes chatting with Hannah about Jin-ho's condition. Hannah liked Mrs. Lee because she always listened carefully and never treated her like she was too young to understand what was happening with her brother. "The doctors are trying new medicine," Hannah explained, carefully counting out change from Mrs. Lee's payment. "Jin-ho says it makes him feel sick sometimes, but the doctor says that means it's fighting the bad cells in his body." Mrs. Lee nodded seriously. "Your brother is very brave. And so are you, Hannah." The afternoon brought more customers. Some were regulars from the neighborhood, while others were people driving by who stopped when they saw her sign. Hannah had written it herself in big, careful letters. "Lemonade $1. Help fight cancer." Below that, she had drawn a picture of her family, including Jin-ho with his basketball. Around 3 o'clock, a group of high school students walked by. They were wearing basketball jerseys and carrying bags from the corner store. One of them, a tall boy with kind eyes, stopped to read Hannah's sign. "Hey guys, wait up," he called to his friends. "Let's get some lemonade." The whole group came back, and each of them bought a cup. As they drank, the tall boy asked Hannah about Jin-ho. When she mentioned that her brother used to play basketball, his eyes lit up. "Which position did he play?" "Point guard," Hannah said proudly, remembering how Jin-ho had explained the different positions to her. "He's really good at shooting 3-pointers." The boy nodded thoughtfully. Then he pulled out his phone and took a picture of Hannah's stand. "Do you mind if I share this on social media? Maybe we can get more people to stop by." Hannah looked at her mother on the porch for permission. When Sun Lee nodded, Hannah smiled and said yes. The boy and his friends each bought another cup before they left, and the tall boy dropped an extra $20 in her collection jar. As the afternoon went on, more people started showing up. Some mentioned seeing the post online. Others had heard about the stand from friends. Hannah stayed busy pouring lemonade and making change. Her mother helped her make 3 more batches of lemonade to keep up with all the customers. But what nobody on earth knew was that they weren't the only ones watching Hannah's lemonade stand that day. High above the atmosphere, hidden by technology far beyond human understanding, an alien observation post had picked up unusual activity patterns in the area. The sudden gathering of humans around one small point had triggered their monitoring systems. As they zoomed in their sensors, they found something that would change not only Hannah's life, but the course of human history. Back on Earth, Hannah was too busy to notice anything unusual. As the sun began to set, she counted the day's earnings with her mother's help. It was more than she had made on any other day, $127.50. She carefully put the money in the special box she kept under her bed, right next to the chart where she tracked her progress toward helping with Jinho's medical bills. That night, as she got ready for bed, Hannah went to visit Jinho in his room. He was sitting up in bed, looking tired but smiling as she showed him the day's earnings. "You're amazing, little sister," he said, reaching out to ruffle her hair. "But you don't have to do this, you know." "I want to," Hannah said firmly. "You're going to get better, and then you can teach me how to play basketball properly." Jinho's eyes got a little watery, but his smile grew bigger. "It's a deal," he said. "Now get some sleep. You've got another big day tomorrow." Hannah hugged her brother carefully, mindful of the tubes and wires attached to him, then went to her own room. As she climbed into bed, she looked out her window at the stars twinkling in the dark sky. She made a wish, the same wish she had made every night since Jinho got sick. "Please let my brother get better." Unknown to Hannah, at that very moment, a being from those distant stars was making a decision that would answer her wish in ways she could never imagine. But that would have to wait until tomorrow, when a very unusual customer would visit her lemonade stand. As she drifted off to sleep, Hannah held tight to her stuffed penguin and smiled, thinking about all the people who had helped today. She didn't know it yet, but her small act of selling lemonade was about to spark something much bigger than she could ever dream of. Tomorrow would bring changes that would amaze not just her family, but the entire human race. In the quiet of the night, as the Kim family slept, their story was already spreading across social media, touching hearts and inspiring others to help. And somewhere far above, invisible to human eyes, alien observers were preparing to make first contact in the most unexpected way possible, all because of a little girl's love for her brother and a simple cup of lemonade. In the observation ship floating high above Earth, first cultural anthropologist Teklar sat in his study pod, his large eyes fixed on the screens showing Hannah's lemonade stand. He had been watching Earth for 50 years now, but this simple scene puzzled him more than anything he had seen before. Teklar's people, the Galactics, were very advanced. They had cured all diseases hundreds of years ago. They had solved poverty and hunger. Their technology could build entire cities in days. But as he watched the little human girl carefully pour lemonade for her customers, he felt there was something here his people had missed. "Computer," Teklar spoke softly. "Explain again why the small human continues this activity when the profit is so small." The ship's computer displayed its analysis. Based on current Earth economics, the human child would need to sell approximately 84,721 cups of lemonade to cover the average cost of cancer treatment in their region. Teklar rubbed his chin thoughtfully. The numbers didn't make sense, but the emotions he was recording did. Every time a customer bought lemonade from Hannah, his sensors picked up spikes of positive emotional energy from both the buyer and the seller. It was particularly strong when people put extra money in her collection jar. He decided to look deeper into the family's situation. The ship's scanners showed him Jinho's condition. The cancer was aggressive, but not untreatable with galactic medicine. On Earth, though, the doctors were doing their best with much simpler tools. Teklar felt a strange tightness in his chest as he watched Jinho sleep, his sister's chart of lemonade earnings taped to the wall beside his bed. That night, Teklar did something he had never done in 50 years of observation. He sent a personal message to the Galactic Council. "Honorable Council members," he wrote, "I request permission to initiate limited contact with the human family. I believe I have found something that could change our understanding of Earth culture forever." While he waited for their response, Teklar spent the next morning watching Hannah set up her stand again. Today was different, though. The social media post from yesterday had spread far and wide. People were driving from other neighborhoods to buy lemonade. Some brought their own children, using the moment to teach them about helping others. Hannah's mother had to help make lemonade constantly to keep up with the demand. The local grocery store owner, Mr. Kim, no relation, brought over 3 bags of lemons and refused to take payment. "For Jin Ho," he said simply, patting Hannah's head. Around noon, Teklar's communication panel lit up with the council's response. He read it quickly, his heart beating faster. Permission granted for limited contact. Standard disguise protocols must be followed. Remember, no direct revelation of galactic existence. Observe and report on human emotional responses. Duration of contact, maximum 1 Earth day. Teklar spent the next hour preparing his human disguise. The Galactics had perfected the art of blending in with Earth people, but they usually chose average, forgettable appearances. Today, Teklar had a different idea. He had studied Earth's sports and entertainment figures, looking for someone whose appearance would be both remarkable and believable. Someone who could do unusual things without raising too much suspicion. Finally, he found the perfect choice: a retired basketball player known as Shaq. The transformation process took several minutes. Teklar's tall, thin form shifted and filled out. His pale blue skin darkened and took on human tones. The extra fingers on each hand merged until he had the right number. Finally, he put on carefully chosen clothes that would fit his cover story. Back on Earth, Hannah was having her busiest day yet. The line at her lemonade stand now stretched down the sidewalk. People chatted while they waited, sharing stories about their own experiences with cancer and family illness. Many took pictures for social media, spreading the word even further. A local news reporter had even shown up with a small camera. She interviewed Hannah, who explained her mission with simple, honest words. "My brother is sick, and medicine is expensive. I want to help him get better." The reporter asked about her goals. Hannah showed her the chart where she tracked her earnings. "I've made $687 so far," she said proudly. "The medicine costs much more, but every dollar helps." The reporter wiped her eyes and bought 4 cups of lemonade. As the afternoon grew warmer, Hannah's father came home early from work to help. He set up a second table with chairs so people could sit in the shade while they enjoyed their lemonade. The neighbors brought over umbrellas and fans to help keep everyone cool. That's when Teklar, now appearing as Shaq, turned onto Maple Street. He had watched enough Earth media to know how to act, but he was still nervous. His research showed that the real Shaq was known for his kindness and generosity, which would help explain what he planned to do. But first, he needed to understand something important. As he walked toward the lemonade stand, Teklar activated his emotional sensors. The readings nearly overwhelmed him. The amount of positive energy flowing between the people gathered there was more than he had ever recorded in 50 years of studying Earth. He saw something his advanced civilization had forgotten: the power of small acts of kindness to bring people together. Each person buying lemonade knew they weren't solving the whole problem, but they came anyway. They shared what they could. They offered encouragement. They became part of something bigger than themselves. The crowd noticed him approaching and began to whisper excitedly. Several people took out their phones to take pictures. Hannah looked up at the tall figure now standing before her stand, her eyes wide with wonder. "Hello," Teklar said carefully, using his best Shaq voice. "I heard about your lemonade stand on social media. Could I buy a cup?" Hannah nodded, her small hands only shaking a little as she poured the lemonade. "It's $1, she said. Teklar reached into his pocket, where he had placed what humans call a wallet. In it was something that would change everything for Hannah and her family. But first, he had one more question to ask. He took a sip of the lemonade. It was sweet and tart, perfectly balanced. "This is very good," he said truthfully. "But can I ask you something? Why did you choose to help your brother this way?" Hannah thought for a moment, then answered with the simple wisdom of a child. "Because even if I can only help a little bit, it's better than doing nothing. And maybe my little bit will inspire others to help too." In that moment, Teklar understood what he would write in his report to the Galactic Council. He had found something on Earth that all their advanced technology couldn't create. The pure, unstoppable power of love and hope passed from person to person like cups of lemonade on a hot summer day. Tomorrow, everything would change. But for now, he simply smiled and reached for his wallet, ready to show Hannah that sometimes the universe has a way of answering the wishes of those who never stop trying to help others. The crowd around Hannah's lemonade stand grew quiet as they watched the tall figure who looked like Shaq reach into his wallet. Teklar, still perfectly disguised in his human form, pulled out what appeared to be a simple business card. The card seemed to shimmer slightly in the sunlight, though nobody except him knew that it contained technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities. "Hannah," he said gently, "could you ask your parents to come here for a moment?" Hannah looked toward her house, where her mother Sunmai was already walking down the porch steps. Her father put down the box of lemons he was carrying and joined them. They both looked nervous but hopeful as they approached the stand. "Your daughter makes excellent lemonade," Teklar said, smiling warmly. "But more importantly, she has shown me something remarkable today. You see, I represent a new medical research foundation." He handed the shimmering card to Hannah's father. The card read, "Galaxy Hope Foundation. Advanced Medical Research and Treatment." Below that was a phone number and an address in Seoul. What Hannah's parents couldn't see was that the card was actually creating itself in real time, and the foundation would become real the moment they called the number. "We have been developing new treatments for various types of cancer," Teklar continued, using words he had carefully prepared. "Your son Jinho's case interests us greatly. With your permission, we would like to include him in our treatment program. All expenses would be covered by the foundation." Sunmi's hands flew to her mouth. Hannah's father read the card again and again, as if afraid the words might disappear. "But why?" he finally managed to ask. Teklar looked at Hannah, who was listening with wide eyes while still carefully pouring lemonade for her customers. "Because your daughter showed us something important. She taught us that sometimes the smallest actions, done with the purest intentions, can create waves of change that affect many lives." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "Our foundation believes in supporting not just medical treatment, but the human spirit that drives people to help others. Hannah's dedication to helping her brother, and the way she has brought your community together, exemplifies everything we stand for." While they talked, more people had arrived at the lemonade stand. The crowd now filled the sidewalk and spilled onto the street. Many were filming with their phones, believing they were witnessing a famous basketball player doing a kind deed. They didn't know they were actually watching the moment when human and alien worlds first truly connected through a simple act of kindness. Hannah's father looked at his wife, who was crying quietly. Could we visit your facility first, to learn more about the treatment?" "Of course," Teklar said. He had anticipated this question. The facility was already being prepared by automated systems, hidden beneath the surface of an existing medical building in Seoul. By tomorrow morning, it would be fully staffed with the best human doctors who had been secretly working with galactic medical technology. "We can arrange a visit for tomorrow," he continued. "Our doctors will explain everything in detail. They can review Jinho's medical records and create a treatment plan specifically for him." Sunmi wiped her eyes and asked, "And it won't cost us anything? Are you sure?" Teklar smiled again. The only cost was already paid by your daughter's determination to help her brother. Sometimes the universe has a way of recognizing and rewarding pure love. As if to emphasize his words, a small boy from the crowd stepped forward. He was holding his piggy bank. "I want to help too," he said, placing the bank on Hannah's stand. "My grandma had cancer last year. She's better now. I want Jinho to get better too." This started a chain reaction. People began stepping forward, leaving not just money but notes of encouragement, small gifts, and their own stories of hope and healing. The local ice cream shop owner promised free ice cream for a year to Jinho once he felt better. A high school basketball coach offered to help Jinho practice once he was strong enough to play again. Hannah kept serving lemonade through all of this, her small face serious as she carefully counted change and thanked each customer. But now her eyes sparkled with new hope. She looked up at Teklar and said, "Would you like to meet my brother?" Teklar nodded. This was the moment he had been waiting for. As they walked toward the house, he activated the medical scanner hidden in his watch. The scanner would give him a complete picture of Jinho's condition, allowing the galactic medical systems to prepare the exact treatment needed. Jinho was sitting up in bed, watching a basketball game on his tablet, when Hannah burst into his room, followed by their parents and what appeared to be his basketball hero. His eyes grew as round as basketballs. "Jinho," Hannah exclaimed, "this is Mr. Shaq. He wants to help you get better." Teklar spent the next hour talking with Jinho about basketball, carefully using his research knowledge, while his scanner gathered the necessary medical data. He was moved by the boy's bright spirit, even after months of difficult treatments. The scanner showed that the cancer was aggressive, but still within the range that galactic medicine could easily cure. As the sun began to set, Teklar prepared to leave. The crowd outside had finally dispersed, though Hannah's lemonade stand was now decorated with cards, balloons, and small gifts from well-wishers. Before he left, he had one more thing to do. He knelt down to Hannah's level and said, "Thank you for teaching me about the power of never giving up, even when the task seems impossible. Would you make me one last cup of lemonade?" Hannah carefully poured the lemonade, adding an extra ice cube just like she had learned her customers liked. Teklar took the cup and placed something in her tip jar. It looked like a simple $100 bill to anyone watching, but it was actually encoded with instructions that would help the Galaxy Hope Foundation find other children who needed their help. "Keep sharing your light with the world, Hannah," he said. "You never know how far it might shine." As he walked away, Teklar sent a final message to the Galactic Council: request permission to establish permanent medical assistance program on Earth, disguised as charitable foundation. Humans have something we need to learn from them: the power of small acts of kindness to change the universe. Behind him, he could hear Hannah talking excitedly to her parents about tomorrow's visit to the medical facility. He smiled, knowing that very soon, not just Jinho but many other humans would benefit from the bridge between worlds that a little girl's love for her brother had built, one cup of lemonade at a time. 1 year had passed since the day the tall stranger visited Hannah's lemonade stand. The world had changed in ways that nobody could have imagined, except perhaps for a certain alien anthropologist who now spent most of his time watching Earth from his observation post with a proud smile. Jinho sat on the front porch of their house, bouncing a basketball slowly as he watched his sister set up her lemonade stand. He was strong now, his hair grown back thick and black, his cheeks full of color. The experimental treatment from the Galaxy Hope Foundation had worked better than any Earth doctor had expected. Within 3 months, every trace of cancer had vanished from his body. But that was just the beginning of the changes. The Galaxy Hope Foundation had grown quickly. Similar facilities had opened in cities across the world. They all used what they called breakthrough medical technologies to treat seriously ill patients. The treatments were always free, and they always worked. Medical researchers studied their methods, and slowly, carefully, The Galactics began sharing their knowledge in ways that looked like human innovation. Hannah still ran her lemonade stand every Saturday, but now she donated all the money to help other families travel to Galaxy Hope Foundation centers. She had become something of a local celebrity. People still came from all over to buy her lemonade and tell her their stories. Today was special, though. It was exactly 1 year since the visit that had changed everything. Hannah had made extra lemonade because she expected more customers than usual. She had learned to make different flavors now: strawberry lemonade, mint lemonade, and her original recipe that started it all. "Need any help?" Jin-ho called from the porch. He had promised to teach her basketball later, but first he wanted to support her lemonade stand like she had supported him through his illness. "Could you bring out more ice?" Hannah asked, carefully arranging her cups. She had a new stand now, built by the local carpenter. It had her name painted on it in bright letters, along with the words, "Hope is sweet." As the morning went on, familiar faces began to appear. Mr. Park from next door came first, just like he always did. Mrs. Lee, the mail carrier, brought her whole family this time. The high school basketball team showed up wearing special t-shirts they had made with Hannah's lemonade stand logo on them. But the biggest surprise came just before noon. A sleek black car pulled up, and out stepped a man in a business suit. He introduced himself as Dr. Song from the Galaxy Hope Foundation. With him was a film crew and several important-looking people. "Hannah," Dr. Song said warmly, "we've come to make a special announcement. Your lemonade stand inspired our foundation to start something new. We're calling it the Hannah Initiative." He explained that the foundation was creating a program to help children all over the world start their own charity projects. They would provide support, guidance, and resources to young people who wanted to make a difference in their communities. "You showed us that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of love," Dr. Song said. "We want to help other children do what you did." What nobody in the crowd knew was that Dr. Song was actually Teklar's direct contact on Earth. The Galactic Council had been so moved by the success of their first interaction that they had approved a long-term program of gradual assistance to humanity. They believed that by supporting and encouraging human kindness and creativity, they could help Earth develop in positive ways. Hannah listened carefully as Dr. Song explained how the Hannah Initiative would work. Her eyes got bigger and bigger as she understood that her simple idea of selling lemonade to help her brother had grown into something that would help children everywhere. "Would you like to say something?" Dr. Song asked, gesturing to the cameras. Hannah thought for a moment, then spoke from her heart, just as she had always done. "When my brother was sick, I felt very small and scared. But I learned that even small people can do big things if they don't give up. And I learned that when you try to help others, you never know how many people will come to help you too." Jin-ho walked over and put his arm around his sister's shoulders. He was crying a little, but they were happy tears. Their parents stood nearby, holding hands and smiling proudly. As the cameras rolled and people cheered, high above Earth, Teklar was watching on his screens. He had just finished writing his final report to the Galactic Council. It read, "In studying Earth's response to the Galaxy Hope Foundation and tracking the ripple effects of one child's actions, we have discovered something extraordinary. Humans possess a resource more powerful than any technology we have developed: the capacity for unconditional love and the determination to help others even when success seems impossible. I recommend we continue our gradual program of assistance, but more importantly, I recommend we begin learning from them. The Hannah Initiative is not just helping Earth, it is teaching us what we forgot in our race for technological advancement. Through the eyes of a child selling lemonade, we have seen the true power of the human spirit." Back on Earth, the celebration continued all afternoon. People shared stories of hope and healing. Children asked Hannah for advice about starting their own charity projects. The high school basketball team set up a small court in the street and started teaching younger kids how to play. As the sun began to set, Hannah sold her last cup of lemonade for the day. She carefully cleaned her stand and counted the money with her mother's help. Today they had raised more than ever before, but Hannah knew that the real value wasn't in the money. It was in the way people came together to help each other. That night, as Hannah got ready for bed, she looked out her window at the stars, just as she had done so many nights while Jinho was sick. But now, instead of making a wish, she said thank you. She didn't know about the aliens watching from above, or how her simple act of love had changed two civilizations. She just knew that good things happen when people help each other, and sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can create the biggest changes. Jinho poked his head into her room. Ready for your first basketball lesson tomorrow? Hannah nodded eagerly. But first, we have to make lemonade for all the people who will come to watch. As brother and sister laughed together, somewhere up among the stars, Teklar smiled and made a note in his journal, Earth date 2025. Discovered that the most advanced technology in the universe is the human heart's capacity for love. Further research required. We'll continue observation with great interest. And so, the story of a little girl's lemonade stand became part of something much bigger. A bridge between worlds, built one cup of sweet lemonade at a time, proving that sometimes the greatest changes in the universe start with the smallest acts of love.